Moving on to the discussions very quickly, and then of course we will have them be brief in their submission. And I would like to call on the NAS Capone to give us, to start off with the discussion, and of course his opening address. The Capone Emmanuel Bahabo. Thank you very much.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Seadogs, it's with a great heart that I welcome you all today as we pay tribute once again to the memory of one of our own, Ralph Opara. The outlook of Brexit occurring will impact African economies in critical areas of aid, foreign direct investments, commerce, trade, as well as immigration. This is a list not exhaustive, as lessons will continue to be drawn as the process unravels. UK had pledged 0.70% of its gross national income as development aid, a considerable portion of which is allocated for development in African nations. The Brexit causes a recession, as many economies fear. The UK's GNI will recede, which will customarily lead to a drop in foreign aid. It is expected that nations such as Sierra Leone, South Sudan will suffer the most, as recent figures suggest that UK aid represents 4.4% and 1.5% of each country's respective GDP. By contrast, UK aid represents only 0.04% of Nigeria's GDP. A fall in aid will likely hinder the abilities of aid-dependent African nations to actualize development objectives. Trade is a sector where there is prospect for considerable change in a rather short time. African exports to the UK account for nearly 4.8% of total exports. This may not appear to be a substantial figure, taking into account that China accounts for nearly 15% of sub-Saharan African exports. It is auspicious for African countries to put their houses in order. For the United Kingdom, we advise that it takes cognizance of the historically deep socioeconomic roots it has in Africa and the unlimited potential that abounds in the agricultural sector while negotiating its Brexit conditions with the European Union. As the global political economy awaits with bated breath for Brexit to unravel, Africa must be ready for whichever way the pendulum swings. The time to start is now. And this, on the closing note, is I have learned deeply from the keynote speaker. The key lessons are renegotiation and reintegration. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, the Capone himself, Emmanuel Bahabo. Put your hands together. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the discussion will kick off, like I said before, and we will be starting. Before that, I just want to quickly mention that we would have the opportunity for us all to make contributions, and then when you do, we understand that there are quite a number of us from across the world, and we would implore you to please mention where you came from, and designated offices also will be appreciated for you to put out there. So we're going to be starting with Dr. Dolapo Sikwade to kick off this discussion.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished speaker. Thank you very much, fellow discussants. I think you have done justice to the topic, and I'm in awe about your facts, your historical, prowess, and then the economy. It seems like you really focus on that, and I thank you for that. But I would still like to put it to you that, as you say, Africa must integrate and unite. Okay. I think it's easier said than done, and I want to open up this discussion from my own point of view. I'm a behavioral scientist in general. That means, for instance, as a psychiatrist, this is the here and now, how you're behaving. Drama is contrived behavior, so it's all part of the same thing. I'd like to trace this issue even further back than the First and the Second World Wars. And for me, it's very important, all right, because I believe that Brexit, all right, okay, is just the beginning of an inexorable situation that our children, okay, will have to battle the real battle, and this is just a short skirmish, and we shouldn't keep quiet. And that's why I love what you are talking about. Why do I say we have to go a bit further back than First and Second World Wars, okay? It's because there are about 3 or 4 things. Some of them are known to a lot of people, but they are hidden. This is what is driving the Brexit issue, and also what's happening in America, because I know we have some guests from America and Canada here, okay? You need to ask yourself, why now? It's like you see a dog just, going out in the sun. For me, I'd like to ask why. What's happening to this person? What's going on? There are 4 factors. The first thing is this. Unknown to a lot of people, but known to us scientists, the semen count, okay, all right, in the white Western male, all right, over the last 20 years is dwindling. This is the honest truth. No, but it's kept very quiet. All right? No, seriously. So therefore, maybe about 20 years ago, it was about 80 million in 1 mil. Now it's getting to about 60. Now, to you, it may seem that this is funny, okay? But right up there, it's very clear, all right, that their numbers, okay, are dwindling. The numbers are dwindling. And so at the very top of government, all right, they are aware. That's the first thing. Second thing is this, is the climate. Now, I know a lot of people have heard climate change, okay, all right? But this is what drove people out of Africa about 70,000 years ago to move to other places. And it's happening right now, climate change. And that's why you have a lot of people leaving the Sahel, going across the Mediterranean, okay, and flooding Europe. So these are the kind of things that I believe are going on that now want to neutralize the advantage of the white man. And I say this not in a pejorative or negative sense, okay? So what we have is that people moving from things, from places that are not so conducive, all right, are moving to sweeter countries. And so they now say, the people in, the immigrants in Europe, okay, they are coming, they are taking their resources. And it is not only in UK here that you have this issue. Even in Europe, you now see that there's a rise of, how would I say, the right-wing white supremacists. And slowly and surely, of course, they haven't won yet. But if you follow the trend of elections, all right, you can see, slowly and surely, okay, the white Western world, they understand that they are under threat. The same thing is happening in America. People wonder, how can white, common sense people in America be following that clown trap? Okay? No, seriously. It's because he's appealing to their base animal instincts that somebody from outside, okay, wants to take, all right, my place and my privilege. And in America, by the way, you guys are aware that within about maybe 5-10 years, the demography is going to change. You're going to have more Hispanics, okay, than white people. And we can see it. People who have had privileges, when that privilege looks like somebody wants to take it away, all right, you now find them using one excuse or the other. And that's what's happening. In Britain, you glossed over it, but it's very important. Okay, all right? Those people, the Rees-Mogg and Co. and all those people, they are people who have been brought up in unfair, privileged position. Why do they have colonies? Not because they were better, because they had a gun. That's the honest truth. Because once you land in a place and you have a gun, like a Gatling gun, I'm not talking of Shakabula. I'm talking about a gun that revolutionized the world. It's called the Gatling gun. Very simple. They just found a gun that can shoot about 1,000 bullets a minute. All right? That's the end of any, resistance. And that's what happened all over Africa. Now, things have changed. Why can't they carry that gun again? Because what people are using now is nuclear weapons. And they do not have the monopoly. And so the British cannot just carry their navy, just go somewhere just like that. Things have changed. And like I said, the British of this country, by the way, I was born here, so don't let me be abusing them too much. All right, okay. They have been used to an unfair advantage. In Europe, what they wanted was that people have to take what they want to say. 20, 30 years ago, all right, they could have probably gotten away with it, but now, the economic giant that France and Germany, represent in terms of population and industry is far more than the British. Instead of them sitting down to, to their level, they want extra privileges, and they've been given. They're not part of the Schengen, as you well know, They have their own currency. So they have been given as much as they can be given. And somewhere along the line, they now found out that, look, listen, you are now in your place. You're now in your place, and of course, people who have unfair advantage and unfair privileges, when that privilege is taken away, face to face, because if you remember, David Cameron went there to try to negotiate, and they told him, and then he said he came back here and did the referendum for all the reasons that you're saying. So why I say that this matter has just started is that I agree with you, whether they do Brexit in or Brexit out, the matter still has to be solved. Because we Africans, as you say, it's easier said than done, we have to unite. But I see one reason why it's very hard for us to unite. Because there are strings still being pulled by the Western world, exploiting the fault lines, between African countries. I take Nigeria for an example. The fault line is already being widened. That will make Nigeria have a problem in trying to say we are Pan-African. That Nigeria itself wants to disintegrate. That very Nigeria. And I put it down to climate change. I know people will say herdsmen, but it is still an inexorable climate change. People from the Sahel coming down to where there's food and water. Just like we are going to Europe. And by the way, sir, if there was a land bridge between Nigeria that was just brought up, like, that biblical something, Nigeria would be empty within about a day, I'll tell you. That is how people move from, where there's adversity, to where, they can, and it is inexorable. And so we have to realize that this battle we are talking about in UK is for our children, because even if they leave, our children will still come and face the same discrimination, which always happens to minorities anywhere that refuse to unite. I do believe that at the end of this kind of discussion, a summary should be sent to, to whoever is going to be the conservative and say that, look, we, the black community, whoever we represent, how we get to that, we want to come and talk to you. How come you're not asking us our point of view? How many of us are in parliament there? And you have to demand it and tell them, this is why our case is different. And we need to speak to you. There's one gentleman, I think his name is Chuka Uwuda, you know, he wants to leave. I'm not sure whether he's representing Africa or representing the white people in Streatham. But those are the kind of people we should call and tell them, all right? Come and address us black people. Let us tell you this. We have a special case. Carry it there. I think I'll leave it for this time being, you know. But just to say that the matter has just started, and we should be prepared for a long drawn out, whether we go in or we go out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Sorry, thank you, sir. You kept it simple and... Okay, so let's call on our next discussant. Priscilla Nwebo, please carry on.
Thank you very much, Ray. Dr. St. Hill, my fellow discussants, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you to the NAS committee and for bringing me here. I appreciate that. Let me just say, Dr. St. Hill, I really appreciate your paper, because I think for me personally, I've been saying it for a while now. I see it as right now the world is in an era of truth. We're in an era of truth, and the narrative is changing. For every single one of us sitting in this room right now today, we are affected and we've been impacted, whether we want to agree, accept, by the narrative. What is that narrative? That narrative is the narrative that even before most of us were born, we were being told that Africa is poor, Africa is a terrible place, Africa is not a place to be in, Africa, nothing grows there, nothing good comes from Africa. When the real truth of the matter is that everything that exists around the planet as we know it today comes from Africa. So I'll tell you a little story about something that happened in 2018. I don't know if most of you are familiar with it. But the reason why I'll bring this up now is because we're all very familiar with the end product. Every single one of us has one of these. Some of us carry 2, 3, 4. Right now, Apple is the world leading company in producing a telephone. They are a $1 trillion, or is it how many $trillion company? What is required to make this product comes from Congo. And the issue was the European countries and the European companies and Americans were extremely worried because Congo's government at that time had decided, do you know what? We're going to pause trade on cobalt. You can't just come into our country and take it as you've been doing. What we're going to do now is we're going to renegotiate with every company separately. We're going to do that one-on-one, unlike how it was before. In a single day, you had all these CEOs jumping on their private flights and getting on their private planes and into Congo because they wanted to sit and renegotiate. They were afraid of what was going to happen. Because of the narrative, most of us have no idea what we sit on as Africa. Most of us have no idea the power that we carry, our ability, or what we can do. We're a $2.3 trillion economy. Now, the Africa Free Trade Agreement that came into effect yesterday makes us a 1.24 billion people economy market. What does that mean? We're bigger than Europe. The only other country that's contending is India. What does that mean for us? For a change, we should be able to leverage and change the 16% intra-trade that we have in Africa. What it simply means when we're speaking with regards to Brexit, when we're thinking about Brexit, is that we should now be in a much more powerful position to be able to negotiate a much better, stronger deal. But what did we see in 2018? What did we see in 2017? What did we see in 2016? We saw Europe in those years pleading with Africa for their European Partnership Agreement renewal. The renewal has been on the table for quite some time. What would that have meant for Africa? that would have meant that our small businesses, small, medium-sized enterprises, as we all know it, is the driver of every economy of every nation. It would have meant that the industries in Africa, the small industries, would struggle to be able to, stay out. Now, you made mention about cocoa. Belgium produces no cocoa, but the best chocolates on the planet. Cocoa comes from, Congo. We have gold, not just in Nigeria, we have diamonds. We have all of these precious minerals scattered around the continent of Africa. Why are we not the ones that are mining and manufacturing and having those industries as great in Africa as they are in the United Kingdom, or as we see them? For instance, we have a situation where Canada is the highest producer of copper on the planet, apparently, but it all comes from Zambia. Zambia makes a meager 1.4 billion from copper production. Canada, on the other hand, 14 billion to their economy. Most of us are not aware of that. And as a result of our not being aware of what is happening around our various African countries, we're not able to come together. We're not able to pull our powers, harness our abilities, and to be able to stand up and say, hey, we can't do this. But you know why our industries don't exist in spite of what we have? As you may mention, sir, at the Berlin conference, there were some laws that they put in place. In Nigeria, we drink kai kai. In Ghana, they call it batashi. We call it all kinds of things all over Africa. But guess what? There is a law that does not allow us to produce it. But Mr. Johnny Walker can do it in Scotland. Thank you. We are not allowed to have those industries, but they can do it in Scotland. I'm sure you've all probably seen that video. I was shocked when I read in a book, before I saw that video, that clip, that the UK was pumping oil out of Nigeria 50 years before they told us that, I thought, is this a joke when I read it? And then when I saw that video clip, I was thinking, oh my God. So they've been robbing us for all these years, and we are doing nothing. Now, what is the narrative? They've always told us about that narrative, nothing grows, nothing. And because of that, every single one of us seated here are affected. That is why we struggle to trade with each other. We struggle to like one another. We struggle to buy from each other. Because, I'll tell you another little story. This so-called black-on-black violence that we hear about if you live here in the United Kingdom every day. So I was attending an event, and it was in an estate. So as I parked my car, and as I was walking down, it was over the holiday period. I think it was, Easter holiday or so. I saw a group of young boys gathered. They were just playing. But I hesitated as I was walking towards them. And I paused for a moment. Then I had to do a mental check of myself. And I said, for goodness sake, they are just children playing. Why did I hesitate? The fear from the narrative. The fear that they're going to attack me. The fear that, oh God, a group of young black boys are dangerous. I've always heard it. Every single one of us sitting here carries such fears. We carry it either to the products that we choose to wear. We carry it, when it's produced by me, you don't take me as seriously. You don't value me quite in the same way as you will value the white person that produces. But they are the biggest fraudsters that exist. There is nothing we do today in Africa that we didn't learn from them. They give it great names. So they come into Africa and they're expats. You come to their country, you're an immigrant. When they are taking money out of their own system, it's concessions. Or it's a commission. It's documented. We need to start to learn how to do the things like these and understand. We don't have to take 90%. We can take 10 and allow these projects to go on. Now, sir, I appreciate you made mention of climate change because I need to round up. I don't agree completely that climate change is the reason why people are moving. I think that's a more sophisticated reasoning. I do understand where you're coming from on that. But I don't think that those who are moving in particular, from the African Saharan region, if you like, are doing so because of climate change. Not necessarily. I think they are doing so because of the failings of our government to provide the basics. Climate change is a sophisticated reason for that. Because, when we speak of, most of us, we're used to our weathers in Africa. Whether it's the rain, whether it's the sun, whatever it is, we're used to it. We're not thinking about it in that same regard that, okay, there's a desert that has suddenly appeared somewhere. We're not thinking about it that way. But if we had governments that were thinking about the benefits of the people in the way that they ought to, when those deserts appear, they would have thought about ensuring that there was some way that water will be carried to that desert. I saw a program a couple of days ago on the BBC, and they were talking about the flood defences that they've had to put up in London here to prevent the River Thames from flooding us because it had been doing so much. And there are a lot of cities around the world right now that are flooding consistently, and we see it very much so in Lagos. It's ridiculous what's going on. But when I saw the planning that they put in place, when they put in the Thames barrier, and then they move further now, the Thames barrier is no longer sufficient. It was only supposed to last a period of time. Now we're having to think about how we're going to replace it or what we're going to do next. But in view of that, there are other little projects going around in the city that's being put up to ensure that these flood defenses are strong enough to be able to protect our cities. We're not even thinking about that in Nigeria. You've got governments that are just coming in, just building everywhere anyhow. Have you ever wondered sometimes you're driving on a road and it suddenly seems like the ground goes a bit funny and all of that? The engineers in the room will understand it. It's done purposely just to protect us. How are we thinking about that in Africa? So I go on to say that we all have a responsibility. With regards to Brexit, whether it happens, it doesn't happen. It's not going to have much of this so-called positive effect that some Africans seem to think it will have. It's almost as though we don't understand history. We seem to be the only group of people who do not take history into account. You must think about history, because if yesterday they didn't value you, why would they suddenly value you today? They're not going to value you. I was so disappointed during the period of the referendum campaign when so many were saying, oh yes, if they come out of Europe then they will do more with Africa. And I'm thinking, have you forgotten they've been stealing from you for all these years? They're not suddenly going to do it on equal, terms. I don't know if we're all aware, in 2018 there was an attempted coup in Guinea, right? Why did we have the attempted coup in Guinea? I'll explain. Because Guinea said we no longer want to have our central bank being the French central bank. We want to have our central bank in Guinea. We're not doing this anymore. We want out. And as usual, they found a useful corporate who was willing to work with them. And so all of a sudden, there was an attempted coup in Guinea. Because that government needs to be removed so that they can have somebody who will continue to do what they want. So if we understand how they work, if we understand their mindset, if we understand that at no given time, whether he gives you aid, if he calls it aid, whether he's prepared to give you a loan, whether he's prepared, he is not interested in your well-being. Don't get me wrong, I love living in the United Kingdom, but I do acknowledge the truths that exist. I don't kid myself for a moment. If they have to, and it's only at the point where we have to make a choice of a transaction, do we know whether or not a white man is racist towards me or not? At that, if before then, he will always smile and say, but of course I like you, you're my friend, you're next door. But let's get to the point where he or she has to give me something between myself and a fellow white person. That's where we will establish in that transaction just how much he likes me, or just how much I'm capable, or just how good my skills are. Because you will find that it will be given over, whether or not the white man, and it's so bad that even we have embedded that, Because we have our governments that will happily shake the hands of the Eastern European cleaner that some of us take back to Nigeria with us when we're trying to strike a deal. That's how bad the narrative is. So we have a duty and a responsibility to ourselves to change that narrative. The reason why today, the day that we live in today, is so wonderful and is so important is that we live in an era where the truth can no longer be hidden. We live in an era where every single one of us have turned to a reporter, every single one of us, can earth information, every single one of us can communicate with the rest of us, whether we are right in front of each other or we're across the world. But guess who the people are that still are not using these communication mediums appropriately? We are. Let me tell you something. In the last 10 years, I've been in the media, and I've done it mostly here in the United Kingdom, and I've learned something. I've learned that nothing that is said or put out or that we hear is planned, is prepared, and before it goes out, the question is, what do we want them to hear? How do we want them to see it? What do we want to leave with them? How do we do media in Africa, or even here? Do we even ask those questions? No. Do you know why? Most of us just want to be on TV. Most of us just want to be heard. Most of us just want to be seen. We are not thinking for a moment about our audience, the message we want to communicate, what we want to leave with them, and how we want them to do whatever we want them to do. It's a means of control. It's a means that you use to impact. You can literally change somebody's mindset just by appearing before them every week, once a week, every day, 6 months. You can impact the way people think, but we don't see it that way. We only see this opportunity where we come out. So what I would like for us to go away with today, if we can, in order for us to be able to have that place, so you made mention of the fact that we should be calling politicians. Why are we not a part of the communication? The conversation, the Brexit conversation and so on. We're not a part of it because we don't want to be a part of it. We don't understand how to be a part of it. Do we have any viable platforms, media platforms in the United Kingdom, for instance, that represents your views as people of African origin? Is there any program you can point to? Is there any platform, TV, radio platform you can point to that represents or says what you want to say, doesn't just say it to you, but says it to power and demands accountability or demands explanations from leadership? Or is there any that we can say exist? We're all shaking our heads, and that's a no, because you're just thinking about it. There isn't. There is. Let me explain. I've been in it and I know. The reason why I say there isn't is because until we get to the point where we can make a change with the media that we have, it doesn't exist. Until authority gets worried about what we're going to say, it doesn't exist. Until they're concerned about our view and how we can move people to do things, it doesn't exist. Our media has 0 action points. We can't get people to act, to do things. Until we can do that. One of the key things that every government appreciates, whether they like the color of your skin or not, if you can employ people, you're their friend. How many does our media employ? What is our bargaining tool? What is our strength? What is our power base? How much is it contributing to the economy? How much are we paying tax-wise? These are the things that the government are looking at. How much are we contributing where national insurance is concerned, coming from our collective media bodies and houses? We have all these one-man bands all over the place. That's why we're having that problem. But I bet you, if I was to reach out to say, please, let's come together and put something, do you know why you struggle to help me? The narrative. the narrative will prevent you from seeing the full picture of what I'm trying to achieve that will benefit all of us. You will see it more as, I can do what she's doing. What is all this nonsense? I beg. Are you the only one that knows how? Meanwhile, you've never done a day in front of a camera before. You don't know what it takes to maintain. But somebody somewhere will say, I beg, what does it take? Please, I beg, move, not only you. These are our problems. These are our problems. Until we learn to come together, until our reality becomes unity, speaking with one voice, until we understand that if I buy a product from my brother and my sister, you know, if I should come to you today and say, you know, I want us to do business together, you should contract me for something, or I should do vice versa, give me the best. Don't think it's an opportunity to take from me. Unfortunately, that's how we work. We present our best to the whites, and we give our worst to ourselves. Again, it's the narrative. It's the narrative, and it goes back hundreds of years. So we all need a paradigm shift, and we all need to understand what we have, and we all need to stand together and speak with one voice. Brexit or no Brexit, we are the power. Brexit or no Brexit is an opportunity for our governments and for us to put the pressure on our governments to say, no, we can do better. We don't have, right now, the reason why, you know, they were running around demanding the signature of the EPA and all of that is very simple. China has a 300 billion advancement ahead of them with their trade with Africa. The EU doesn't have up to 300 billion. So who's leading? China is also challenging France and saying, look, you can't continue with this draconian ways of, you know, demanding all of this, holding on to these African countries. Why? China herself is trying to colonize Africa. They build, you know, we allow them to come in and bring all their prisoners and build buildings for us, and they bug us, and they hear everything that we're saying, and we just sit back and fold our arms. When are we going to open our eyes and stop all this? It is up to us, the diasporan Nigerians, the diasporan Ghanaians, the diasporan Senegalese, the diasporan, you know, South African, to make a difference. Let's not let this opportunity go, but let's embrace it. Let's take what we have, and that is this tool. It's available to all of us. We're all signed up to all the groups, to all the apps, and information is just flying all over the place. Let's utilize that, and let's make ourselves who we really are. You know, you made mentions about the fact that their semen is reducing. I'm not sure their semen is reducing. They just like their 2.4 kids. They don't like to procreate. And their populations are dwindling. You know, in Spain right now, they will pay you to have children. In various European countries now, you know, they're paying couples, encouraging them to make love more often. You hear all kinds of nonsense going on because they're trying to get them to procreate more. It's happening. Think about it. If we just take a minute to look at what's happening, we will understand what we need to do. And I believe we can all do it. Brexit or not, we are power. It's an opportunity for us to do a lot better for ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You know, for a moment, I was also wondering where this discussion is going. Because we are talking about cement reducing and making love in connection with Brexit. Where is the correlation exactly? When does it melt? Of course, definitely there is a place, one. And secondly, I do applaud my very senior colleague here, Madame Twali, President, Weibo, for our contribution, which is true. We all have a role to play because as Africans, it all boils down to our attitude towards this. If you would allow me, I'm not one of the discussants, but I must say this out to the ladies who are here, and of course to the men, you can say this to your wives. We go into the nail shops to do our nails with the Koreans, the Chinese, and then in their language, they say all nasty things about us. someone whispered that to me until it happens to me. As a matter of fact, 3 Fridays ago, I couldn't believe it. And this is a place I like to go into. And I was completely disregarded beyond my wildest dreams. They just left me there. They said they don't want to do my nails because I take time to choose colors. It's my choice. They said they don't want to do my nails because of one reason or the other. And then I left there upset. I walked into a shop on East Street and I said to the ladies there, I want to make my nails. Do you know where I can go into where a black person makes nails? And they said, we don't make nails anymore. You know how our people are now, blah, blah, blah. And then I said, yes, but this is the way these people treat us. Why don't we do this and patronize our own people? And they said, well, sometimes our people, I don't want to hear the excuses. The fact is that we are talking about this thing. We are coming into the realization of it. And it's an action we must take. Southeast London, for one, in Brixton, East Street, and Peckham, we have the Pakistanis selling my gari, selling my amala, selling my ogono. Do you understand? And then I want to buy, instead of going into the Nigerian woman's shop, I'll say she has an attitude. She's going to put her nose on the air. She charges 30p more. But you know, which is probably true. But you know what I did? There's a Ghanaian shop on East Street. I walked in there, I want to buy Olu. I'm not sure Olu is actually done by a Nigerian, but they use that name. It's a Nigerian. But the product is really good. Their palm oil is good. I love my palm oil with boiled yam and sprinkle some salt on it. But I love Olu palm oil. I walked in there and I said I wanted the Olu, and I checked the price. It was £3.59. I went into the Pakistani shop. It was £3. I went back into the Ghanaian shop and I said, I want to buy this from you because of this, because of patronizing ourselves. But it is £3.59. Why is it that? Oh, you know, because of the suppliers, because of this. But you have the same suppliers with the man next door. Why is yours expensive? He said, okay, bring £3. I said, no, it's not a matter of okay. Because someone else will not ask you this question. They would rather go there. So the onus is on all of us. We have to try as much as we can to keep that money within our community. They said the Jewish community, it goes in 30 times before the money goes out. As a matter of fact, the money might just stay in there. The Asian community, you see how they help themselves. We have to grow our community, then we'll start talking about economic power, then political power. Then they'll listen to us. Ladies and gentlemen, the ball stops right where you're seated.